please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Let's kickstart this show with the market action of the day. The stock markets are well and truly on a weak footing. We saw red on the screen once again today, and this after a promising start that we saw in early trade. So take a look on your screen. Bears clearly taking steady control in the last hour to raise all the gains on the Sensex and the Nifty. Both ended with marginal losses. This is the 7th time in the last 8 sessions that we are seeing markets end with losses. No prize for guessing who the culprits were. Bank stocks led the fall once again as they remain under sustained pressure. No respite for the mid-caps either, as they saw sharper cuts compared to the blue chips. So let's bring in Anuj Singhal as always with a wrap of the trading action. Anuj, it's very clear now that bears are on a steady footing, but how much more consolidation can we see now?
Well, there's a saying in the market that amateurs open it and professionals close it. For last many days now, the last hour has been brutal, and today as well, last hour selling is once again emerging, and once again it's being led by the banks and Bank Nifty. IT stocks and select NBFCs, especially the larger ones, sort of kept the Nifty and Sensex in the game, and they were not down as much as the mid-cap index and the Bank Nifty. Of course, metals were down as well because of what was happening in China, which was quite interesting. So Tata Steel, Vedanta, Hindalco, all of them ended at the low point. Banks were weak, so Axis, ICICI and State Bank were all down. You can add other few stocks like Yes Bank, Sun Pharma and Tata Motors as well. On the gaining side, you had select NBFCs and IT stocks, HDFC, perhaps Bajaj Finance as well, Tech Mahindra and TCS. In the F&O space, large losers today, Relcom, Adani Enterprises, SAIL, Canara Bank, IDBI Bank and Balrampur Chini. And some outliers, some stocks bucking the trend, Page Industries, Ashok Leyland and Central Bank of India. But all in all, the bears are in control of this market. There was just a one-day pullback and looks like that's been sold into.
Okay, fair enough, Anuj. Thanks for joining in with that. But let's get you the latest regarding State Bank of India's concerns over exposure to the power sector after comments from the power minister yesterday saying that State Bank of India is worried about its exposure to Adani Power and Tata Power's Mundra projects. Clarity clearly coming in from SBI Chairman Rajneesh Kumar. Speaking to us earlier today, Rajneesh said that the concerns are not just SBIs but all the lenders to these power plants. He highlighted them that the lack of long-term power purchase agreements is a problem.
It is not SBI. It is SBI on behalf of all the lenders to these 3 power plants where the litigation is going on and went on. There is only one problem, and the problem is around long-term PPAs, where in the last 2 years there is hardly any long-term PPA. And what we have been submitting from lenders' perspective or from otherwise a sound advice also, that it is not the right strategy for DISCOMs to rely solely on the short-term PPAs. Long-term PPAs are in fact in their own interest. What the February 12th circular of RBI does is that some of the accounts where standstill was available in terms of asset classification, so that is no more available. And if there are 90 days overdue, then of course the account becomes NPA. And at the first instance of default, even if it is for a day in respect of term loan payments, then banks have to start working on the resolution plan.
Okay, that's important comments coming in from SBI chairman there. But let's move on to another similar important story. During his budget speech earlier this year, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley had announced that farmers producing kharif crops would be entitled to a minimum support price, which is at least 50% higher than their cost of production today. Government think tank Niti Aayog met representatives from various state governments today to discuss the new MSP mechanism. Ashpreet Sethi, who was tracking that meeting, is in fact here with the details. Ashpreet, what exactly did the states propose? And when are we expecting some kind of mid-ground on this?
Well, it seems that the meeting is far from over. This is just the first meeting that took place where Niti Aayog Vice Chairman had headed the meeting. But what we pick up from sources is that another meeting is likely within the next few days. Now, as far as the minimum support price is concerned, what we are picking up is that states have said that the formula should not hurt the states' growth and the revenue as far as the MSP formula is concerned. Now, remember, farmers have been agitating, saying that the formula needs to be revised to ensure that even land cost is covered under the MSP. Now, that is something that will be deliberated upon. No decision has been taken on that front. Now, 50% loss should be borne by the government. That's another demand that the states have put forward as far as this meeting is concerned. Now, as far as different states are concerned, including Rajasthan and others, they have gone ahead and said that amendments have been made to the Marketing Agriculture Act, but they will have to take it to the cabinet. Some states have already taken it to the cabinet and gotten approval. But the biggest issue that has been raised is that they need funds from the center as far as MSP or loss to farmers, compensation to farmers is concerned. Now, we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front, because another meeting is likely. But as we also know, farmers have been protesting in Maharashtra, and there will be a MSP Satyagraha, which will be launched on March 14th by another group of farmers across different states in India.
Okay, Ashri, thanks for putting that into perspective. But let's move on to the big court story of the day. In a landmark judgment, the Supreme Court today allowed passive euthanasia in the country. The historic order, of course, comes after years of intense debates on whether or not a person should be allowed to die in case of an incurable illness. Utkarsh Anand, who has been following up on that hearing in the top court, joins in now with the details. Utkarsh, what were the final arguments that clinched that landmark verdict?
Constitution bench in the Supreme Court today recognized right to die with dignity as a facet of right to life and a constitutional right guaranteed to every citizen in India. It said that passive euthanasia and the process of drafting living will is permissible, and a patient who is terminally ill and is suffering with an ailment beyond cure, he can draft a living will whereby advance directives can be given that he can give up the life support system and his treatment can stop when the hope of living is very dim. The court said that we are conscious of the safeguard that which is required in this case, and therefore various concerns have been addressed by the Supreme Court in its judgment today. It has laid down its comprehensive guidelines on who can execute a living will, under what conditions that living will can be executed, and whereby this living will can also be revoked. The court has said that these guidelines will be invoked until the central government comes up with a legislation in this regard.
Okay, Utkarsh, thanks for taking us through that. That is, of course, a landmark judgment which we will be talking about further in the course of the day. But let's also listen in to Mr. and Mrs. Lavate, an elderly couple from Mumbai that have written to the Prime Minister and President seeking permission for active euthanasia. Here's what they said about the Supreme Court's judgment.
The Supreme Court judgment is only 50% positive. They should reconsider and order that those who want to die and those who are above 75 years, if they are prepared to die of their own and without any pressure, etc., you can verify their antecedents from the police and from the doctors and then decide.
When we are all physically fit, at that time we want to go and die, because our each and every organ will be utilized, and that's why we want it.
Let's get you an exclusive story from North Block. The GST Council may finalise a simpler return process when they meet for the 26th time tomorrow. But that's not the only item on the agenda. We learned that GST Council, which is the top decision-making authority under the new indirect tax regime, may also notify a rollout date for e-way bills. Timsy Japuria is here with the details. Timsy, you are going to have a busy day tomorrow. What's on the agenda? And can we expect a simplification of the entire process tomorrow itself?
Well, to be precise, the Council is likely to adopt the broad principles to design a new simplified return form under the GST regime. Now, this form would be similar to the current GSTR 3B, but yes, we need to wait and watch and see how exactly this shapes up. And remember, the GSTR 3B filing date also will get extended by a minimum of 3 months. The GST 3B facility, which expires on March 31st, is also likely to get a go-ahead for another extension. That means the taxpayers will be able to file returns through the existing format of GSTR 3B till the time there is a new simplified form there. Also, on the other side, what else is on the agenda, as you asked? The Council is likely to discuss starting to move towards getting more and more things under the ambit of GST, to be precise, starting with alcohol. And this time on alcohol, they mean industrial alcohol. And there's an exact term for it, which is extra neutral alcohol. So the council is likely to discuss to get extra neutral alcohol to be taxed under GST. Currently it is taxed by states, and council feels that the current regime doesn't allow states to take this up. Also, anti-profiteering rules will be modified a little bit, so we need to wait and watch and see for tomorrow what happens.
Okay, Timothy, we'll of course have you back all day tomorrow to give us the updates. Thanks for taking us through that. But let's move on to an exclusive interview. Outsourcing to Indian IT companies from the US will not be hit should there be a trade war, but a war for talent could be possible. That's the word from Gartner's Peter Sondergaard, who says that Indian IT companies were well placed to compete in the global market in the war for talent. I caught up with him yesterday and began by asking him if he saw the visa environment in the US tightening further and what impact that could have on India.
Many companies that recognize that the skill set isn't necessarily fully there in the United States. And therefore, I think we will get realism built in. I say that, though, in an environment that seems relatively unpredictable from a political perspective. But I do believe that companies in the United States understand that competitiveness is defined by how well you use technology. How well you use technology is defined by talent.
There has been, over the last couple of days alone, the talk on the possibility of a trade war. How would that impact outsourcing by Indian IT companies to US?
I think everything that we're looking at right now, trade war-wise, is in old economy areas like steel. I don't think that trade war gets based on talent that actually supports digital transformation of societies anywhere, because it would be very limiting if that happened. I think what we can possibly see is a war for talent. And therefore, I think that's what sort of places the opportunity for some of the Indian service providers and also generally for the talent in India in a very good position.
So you don't expect outsourcing, you would think would be one sector that is not going to be impacted should there be a trade war in the future?
And it's very clear if you look at some of the main areas that we all need talent in. For example, in artificial intelligence and analytics, in things that have to do with software development in a digital world, there is not enough of that talent around the world. So if there is a quote-unquote trade war, it's going to be a trade war that wants to actually attract the talent as opposed to reject the talent. I would argue, therefore, that that would be ultimately a benefit for countries that have focused on educationally developing STEM-related talent.
Okay, let's bring you the latest then in the INX Media case. After a series of setbacks, partial relief for Karti Chidambaram coming in, Delhi High Court has barred the Enforcement Directorate from arresting Karti till the next hearing, which is scheduled for the 20th of March. However, the relief comes with some riders. Karti will have to submit his passport with the ED. He will also have to make himself available for questioning. The Delhi High Court has also clarified that its interim order will not affect proceedings in the CBI court. And the big national headline of the day, BJP's Biplab Kumar Deb has taken oath as the Chief Minister of Tripura along with Deputy Chief Minister J.D. Burman and 7 other ministers. BJP's ally IPTF is also a part of the Tripura government. The swearing-in ceremony of the first BJP government in the state was attended by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself as well as party veterans like Lal Krishna Advani and Murli Manohar Joshi. The event was special for the BJP as it also marked the end of the 25-year communist rule in Tripura. Now, the big news from the global space, US President Donald Trump will meet his North Korean counterpart Kim Jong-un by May this year. Now, this could make Trump the first ever sitting US president to meet a North Korean leader. CNBC's Geoff Cutmore gets us more details. Geoff, take it away.
Donald Trump says he will do something no sitting American president has ever done, meet with a North Korean leader. In a tweet, Trump said he is planning a meeting with Kim Jong-un on denuclearization. He also praised recent talks between Kim and South Korean officials. But the administration is firm that sanctions will be in place until an agreement is reached. The news came as South Korea's National Security Office head Chung Yu-yong and other officials met White House counterparts to talk about their meetings with Kim. Chung spoke at the White House after meeting with the administration.
He expressed his eagerness to meet President Trump as soon as possible. President Trump appreciated the briefing and said he would meet Kim Jong-un by May to achieve permanent denuclearization.
The developments at the White House came after the two Koreas sought better relations in the build-up to the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang. However, many questions remain over what relationship Trump and Kim will have. They have both traded barbs since Trump won the presidency. Kim has described Trump as a dotard, and in reference to the US, and the president said that a frightened dog barks louder. He has also threatened the states, saying it is within range of North Korea's recently developed weapons. For his part, Trump has referred to Kim as Rocket Man. He has also threatened to meet any action from Pyongyang with, quote, fire and fury, the likes of which the world has never seen before. However, in recent days, he said that progress was being made, and last night he tweeted that a meeting is being planned.
Okay, that is a landmark move indeed. Thanks, Joe, for taking us through that. But staying with Donald Trump, the US president has followed through on his pledge to impose stiff tariffs on imported steel and aluminium. Ignoring warnings from USA's major trade partners, Trump has signed the order to levy a 25% duty on steel imports and 10% on aluminium. Here's a report by NBC's Christian Walker.
After days of confusion, today, President Trump made his new tariff plan official. Flanked by steel and aluminum workers, he says the plan will help.
A strong steel and aluminum industry are vital to our national security, absolutely vital. Steel is steel. You don't have steel, you don't have a country.
The president says tariffs, which are taxes on imports, are necessary to counter cheap goods from countries like China. The plan will impose 25% tariffs on steel and 10% on aluminum. Canada, the biggest supplier of steel and aluminum to the U.S., and Mexico will be exempt as those countries renegotiate NAFTA with the United States. Mr. Trump indicating other countries could also be spared, but stressing American workers come first.
The workers who poured their souls into building this great nation were betrayed, but that betrayal is now over. I'm delivering on a promise I made during the campaign, and I've been making it for a good part of my life.
But tonight, opposition from many top Republicans who warn it could spark a trade war.
I'm just not a fan of broad-based, across-the-board tariffs. You'll have a lot of collateral damage, not just consumers, but businesses.
And the tariff plan has also split the White House. While proponents celebrated today, top economic advisor Gary Cohn resigned over the issue. Today, the president singling him out during his final cabinet meeting.
He's going to go out and make another couple of $100 million, and then he's going to maybe come back. He might come back, right? We'll be here. Absolutely.
The plan set to take effect in 15 days. Kristen Welker, NBC News, the White House.
Now remember, 17 countries, including India, have right now raised their concerns at WTO on Donald Trump's tariff decision. The protesting countries contend that the US is raising tariffs beyond its WTO commitments. A lot of Indian corporates have been talking about that, and we'll take this important issue forward over the course of the day. But for now, we're completely out of time on this edition of After the Bell. Many thanks for staying with us and watching the show. But stay tuned to CNBC TV18. All the market action of the day and of the week is lined up on the other side, as Taking Stock is up next.